Hey YouTube, I want to thank you first, I guess, for joining this episode. If you subscribe, thank you very much. I know I only maybe have this video and my welcome video out, so thank you for showing interest so early in this channel. Now I am new to vlogging. If you saw my welcome video, it wasn't very high quality, but hopefully as I progress in developing my vlog slash channel slash SECTalk episodes, you will enjoy them and they'll get better and better quality with time, just like doing anything else. Today's episode, it's the first episode of SECTalk with DerlyG. We're going to be going into New York City. I'm going to be interviewing my friend James Rutt. He works at the Dana Foundation. He's the CIO slash CISO. So we're going to talk to him about his challenges. He might talk a little bit about both of those organizations, but then I want to go into, a deep dive into security challenges, especially in the cloud, that he's seeing within the last year or two. So I'm sorry if I'm a little casual today. I'm about to go for a run before I go into the city and just chilling, joining my morning tea and hanging out with Simone. This is Simone, say hi, and let's get started with today's episode. Hello YouTube, we're here at the Dana Foundation at 505 Fifth Avenue. I'm going to visit my friend James Rutt. He is the CISO for the Dana Foundation, which is a philanthropic organization here in New York City. We're going to learn more about the organization and his IT and security challenges today. So let's get started. Welcome YouTube, this is DerlyG with SECTalk with DerlyG. I'm here at the Dana Foundation with James Rutt. He's a friend of mine that I met at the Cloud Security Alliance.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to be here.
So James, thanks for letting us use your building and your office to film this. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It's a pleasure to be on this cast with you.
So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about the Dana Foundation and your role as the CIO?
Sure. So the Dana Foundation is an endowment-based foundation. We were founded in 1950. We fund grants for neuroscience and neuroimmunology research. We also publish a number of book titles under the heading of Dana Press. We publish about 50 to 60 titles a year, all around neuroimmunology and neuroscience. We also have a number of outreach programs where we co-work with larger not-for-profits such as AARP and the Girl Scouts of America on brain-related initiatives.
So a lot of research, I take it, when it comes to data security, is that your highest level asset, your priority one?
It certainly is. Anything to do with health-related information, either directly or peripherally, is our major concern in terms of securing and managing and governing it.
Okay, so since it's health-related, even though you're just doing research, do you still got to meet HIPAA compliance?
At a lower level of encumbrance, yes.
Okay.
It's not as high as, say, a managed care organization or a hospital, but there still needs to be a baseline amount of governance to that effect.
I take it you guys are using the cloud in some way, shape, or form. Most organizations are. What's your cloud portfolio look like today?
So we are proud to have been an early adopter of the cloud. We've been a 100% cloud-based organization for 5.5 years. So we started 7 years ago. We started with Office 365, moving to transform applications into Salesforce, and essentially just moving other peripheral applications off of our on-premise environment onto the cloud, and finished up about 5.5 years ago. So we're very proud of what we've done. I think the benefits are absolutely spoken for themselves in terms of scalability, reliability, availability, and all the different things that we look for as infrastructure owners.
So was there, since you're in a C-level, right, position, was there a lot of concern from the board of directors or the founders about moving to the cloud? What were their security concern, data security concerns?
I think anytime you relinquish any kind of 100% control on your data, there's going to be concerns. That's why we took a staged approach by taking the most commoditized piece of our data, which was email, with the least amount of encumbrance in terms of regulation, et cetera. By moving that to the cloud first, letting it sit for a little while, and basically validating and improving the concept out, that paved the way for more rapid adoption of our other areas of operation.
From a control standpoint, what were some of the challenges that you felt when you moved to the cloud? Was it more around identity and access management, more hardening the actual data on the database level? What were some things that you felt were challenging, and how did you meet them?
So in terms of data hardening and data control, I think those were the two key things. So now again, as you relinquish the data layer, so to speak, especially when you're talking about platform and software as a service, it's a different security posture now. Principles never change, but techniques do, of course. We look to be an innovator in terms of adoption of security solutions that are fairly, I would say, cutting edge in order to meet these newer concerns and vectors of attack. For instance, we brought on a solution. We were one of the first adopters of CASBs, our cloud access security brokers, even before they were even called CASBs, as a matter of fact. So what kind of drew me to the solution was it provided a DLP-like functionality for data that we would typically need to integrate much deeper a legacy DLP solution. So it was kind of attractive.
So you're using it in the cloud inline, basically?
Inline, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But the cloud version of it. Because I think you can use it also on-prem when you use it inline.
Yeah, we use it inline.
Okay.
In a hybrid, I would say. It's like a reverse proxy.
What are some other challenges? Anything else other than a CASB solution to solve the DLP?
Yes, so we started looking at security not just from a network perimeter perspective, but also down to the data artifact level. So we brought on another solution which actually allows us to control at the artifact level, say a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, any kind of consumable artifact, to be able to not only secure by encryption, of course, but also control the movement and use of that artifact. It's been phenomenal for us.
So that sounds either digital rights management or whole lifecycle data security, one of those type of solutions?
It's very DRM-like, but in a, I would say, a next-gen implementation, because what we've seen in the past over DRM, if I could just kind of go to the side for a second, is we've seen a lot of stovepipe solutions, basically a solution per type of file. Adobe, Microsoft, they all had their own.
That's crazy to manage.
It's impossible to manage, and also they were not, they couldn't talk to each other. By taking a more holistic view of this, it's a lot easier to manage, and we get a lot more value out of it.
There's a lot of great new products coming out in that area. It doesn't really have a name yet. Some people call it digital rights management next gen, or whole lifecycle, secure data lifecycle. So it usually follows the data, whether it's in use, it's structured, unstructured, no matter where it goes.
Yeah, I think the legacy of DRM has some kind of a slight negative connotation to it. So I think people are searching for a new paradigm to name it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves.
Now, some people find it challenging to, at least on the governance side, try to take an audit, see what controls are being implemented. It can be very time consuming. I know software as a service is probably easier compared to infrastructure as a service, but how did you guys handle those challenges? Is the CASB doing reporting for you, or do you have another product that's pulling reports of what's being turned on or turned off to meet compliance?
So you're talking about audit encumbrances, I would say, right? You know, you have a basic regulatory baseline that obviously you want to have assurance on. So your SOC reports, obviously your SSAE 16s, those from the providers will provide, you know, a baseline of assurance. Using tools like our CASB, using tools like some more advanced network access control, et cetera, that'll then enrich those reports to give us what we need. Now, when we talk about audit, you've got internal audit, you've got external audit. Both are two different approaches you need to take. You know, internally, you can be a little more fast and loose with the way you collect data and the way you report it out. With external audit, you have to be very strict in terms of what you're providing as well as what you're admitting to, so to speak.
Well, let's talk a little bit about CSA, that's the Cloud Security Alliance. I think the chapter here in New York City was dead for a little bit, and you helped start Revive It right here in the New York City metro area. So just to let the audience know, the metro area covers a little bit of everything just outside of New York City, a little bit of probably Jersey City, maybe I think I heard some Connecticut residents.
County, Connecticut.
Yeah, right, so basically if they travel or live in the greater New York City area, they're welcome to come and join the chapter.
Yeah, we take the metro model.
Yeah.
I think just New York, obviously we've got a good population to draw from there as well, but there's a number of large hedge funds and financial firms up in Greenwich, for instance, as well as Jersey City, like you mentioned before. So we're looking to really expand the chapter, and we're very proud of the reconstitution of such.
Why did you choose CSA as an organization, right, to follow, to be involved in, and then why did you feel the chapter needed to be restarted?
Sure. So I didn't actually choose the CSA; they chose me.
Okay.
So they actually reached out to me, kind of cold, and I just found the opportunities around cloud security. It was not being talked about, or if it was, there was no real solutions that were being proffered by the folks that were talking about it. As we've seen in the vendor community, it's just the opposite. Obviously, everybody understands that the shift to cloud is inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think they understood and kind of brought their research and the product development in line with that. On the practitioner side, we understand innately that cloud is obviously taking over traditional on-premise architectures, but we don't know innately how to secure them properly because it's just a whole new world in terms of security. So after I was introduced to the CSA and checked out their cloud controls matrix and the tremendous body of research that they offer, as well as the opportunity to have chapter interaction with peers and other vendors, I thought it was great. So this was probably about 4.5 years ago. I would say 3.5 years ago, there's a shift in terms of the leadership. I believe some of the original founders and leaders of the organization had moved away. In any case, the chapter kind of quieted down to not much activity. We're proud to be able to reconstitute that, and we're very excited. We're very excited about it. We're going to be holding our first event in May, in the next couple weeks, and we foresee great things. I think it's just a little more focus, and now the pace of adoption for cloud is really accelerated, as we've all seen. So
CSA, their methodology, their kung fu is pretty much CCM, and I think before FedRAMP came out, they were pretty much the gold star. I think actually, if you got certified, you got star certified or something like that.
Yep, that seems to be the baseline.
Yeah, and it's still very popular throughout the world, especially in Europe. How do you like to use the CCM controls in your environment? Do you combine them with like cybersecurity framework or ISO 2700? Have you used them currently in your role?
So I've used them to an extent. I think I take a risk framework based approach to security. Okay. So typically my favorite or my old go-to is the NIST RMF, right? So yeah. I think some of the CCM does align with it in ways. I haven't traditionally leaned on it, but I think it's a great resource to offer to folks that may not necessarily take any framework kind of approach to security, whether on-premise or cloud. It's a great starting point for people to start thinking about the governance necessities around cloud adoption.
Yeah, and I think in it has already a mapping to the different NIST controls. So if you want to see how to do that within a software environment or platform or infrastructure, whatever flavor of cloud you're using, you could also maybe just reference it real quick to see how would I implement this control within the cloud.
Absolutely.
As well.
It's a great check and balance, I think,
yeah.
for both, actually. And it can give you the quantitative kind of measures that you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And you're mitigating risk down to a proper residual level.
So in your role as a CIO, I think you also perform the CISO role as well.
By default, right?
Yeah, since you guys aren't big enough yet, or it's a nonprofit org, so it's understandable. What, in the next 18 months or so, is there any research into certain genres of security that you're trying to accomplish and knock out?
So I would say right now, because of the fact that really there's no perimeter left in any of these organizations of any size, correct? So what's really intriguing me right now is the concept of zero trust networks. Okay. I think that really is going to be the next, high level approach toward securing cloud and cloud traffic, so to speak, because we understand that we really can't trust anybody out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but there's no way to actually get assurance on individual people without a good framework of encryption and validation, verification, et cetera. So I'm really focusing my efforts on understanding how zero trust networks work, and figuring out who's going to play in the space. And back to the point that you had brought up about the CCM, Cloud Controls Matrix, how do we get proper assurance from a governance perspective. I mean, it's easy enough to secure something at a point in time, but you need to have that framework capability to make sure you have a solid approach moving forward. So.
I've been looking into lately, just the governance side. That seems the biggest piece, especially for infrastructure as a service. So I'm hoping in the next 2 or 3 months I can research. There's a lot of new products out there that just plug in through API into the actual cloud service and tell you specifically. They might connect into like your governance software program like Archer. What exactly are you meeting on the control side, on the technical control side?
And how do you map it back?
And how do you map it back to risk and stuff like that? Because those environments change every day. If you made a diagram in the environment to keep it coordinated, you'd have to make a new one every week almost. Sure. Stuff like that. So it's a huge challenge on the governance side.
Yeah, I think to that point, that's a great point. And you think about enterprise risk, not just cybersecurity risk or IT risk.
Yeah.
Who has been running the enterprise risk function lately? It's chief risk officers. It's maybe a financial role like a CFO or a head of finance. These folks don't have any insight into what we do in terms of cybersecurity or tech in general. So, but to your point about maybe taking an API approach to bring that data back into a product like Archer, which is more suited for an enterprise level role, that's no question the way of the future, because we have to make those quantitative and qualitative measures understandable to these folks that are running risk.
Yeah, and eventually I think some of these products might get gobbled up by other CASBs or other software companies like Archer, and they'll get integrated.
I think consolidation is absolutely inevitable, but that's always true at an early stage of a rush, right? We saw that in the early days of the internet in the mid to late 90s. So I think in this generation of cloud security,
like a next-gen firewall, it's basically like 7 appliances all rolled into one. So
exactly. So I think people always like to manage things from a framework perspective. Whenever possible. So that's why you've seen like the next generation firewalls adding more and more of this functionality natively.
Yeah, I think I heard Palo Alto just bought, I think, Event.io, which it does a little bit what I'm talking about as well, because that's pretty much one of the gaps in the cloud side.
Absolutely. I think, they already have a CASB solution, I think Aperture, and a couple other products that are peripheral to that kind of fit into their framework, so to speak.
So what's your go-to when you got to research something new as a C-suite? I know a lot of people rely heavily on Gartner or Forrester. What's your methodology? Do you like to research first stuff and then go to third parties, or vice versa?
I have a pretty deep network of peers here in New York, 2,000 actually. So we share obviously information from that perspective. I'm also an early stage advisor to many of these early stage cybersecurity companies. So you can then backtrack and find out who's funding them, who's supporting them, who are their early adopters, and then from there you can kind of extrapolate other solutions that may be peripheral or you may have a specific need for. So Gartner and Forrester, I think, focus more on the more established, mature companies, which may not be at the cutting edge of innovation.
No, and usually they'll go off based on who has the highest market share too.
Precisely.
So it's not always maybe the right fit for you.
It's a good check and balance, like for instance the Magic Quadrant with Gartner. It's a good check and balance to see roughly where it would fit should it have been placed there if the solution wasn't in there. But overall, the solution has to fit your specific needs, and I think that's what's so exciting about the level of innovation in our space in cloud security. It's at an early stage enough where we can kind of get faster feedback on feature development and also get features tailored more to our needs, not just the greater good. So,
well, CASB's changed so much since it was first invented like 5-6 years ago that and it's changed so fast that it just looks completely different today than what it did back then.
Well, I mean, it's a great point. You talk about, so we were the first customer of Netscope, right? When we bought it, they didn't even use the term CASB to describe the product. And then all of a sudden, organically, this term CASB came out, and then everybody all of a sudden was a CASB vendor.
Well, James, it was great talking to you. Thank you for inviting us here.
Pleasure was all mine, Derly.
And we'll see you next time with SECTalk with DerlyG. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, follow me on social media and subscribe to my YouTube channel.